Welcome to the Tom Sent Show. We are on the air right now with the biggest stories across the country and around the globe. Quick reminder before we get rolling, you can drop a question in the chat on YouTube or over on X at any point during the broadcast. If it is a real question that cuts to the point, I will take it right here in the middle of the news. If it is just noise, we keep moving. Let us get straight into it. Donald Trump just laid down the law on Truth Social, and Tehran is feeling the ground shake under its feet. The president declared an economic D-Day against Iran, warning every foreign bank, shipping registry, and middleman on the planet that if you help the regime move a single barrel of oil, Washington will cut you off from the American financial system entirely. He called out the whole shadow economy by name: swap lines, cash transfers, exchange houses, and corporate front companies. For years, the Washington establishment pretended illicit oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz were an unsolvable mystery of nature. It turns out all you actually need is a president who tells foreign buyers they can trade with the Ayatollah or trade with the United States, but they cannot do both. Major trading partners across Asia and the Middle East are suddenly scrambling to check their paperwork because secondary sanctions from a Trump administration are not suggestions written on a memo. They are a brick wall. When an administration enforces the law with maximum pressure, the smuggling routes dry up overnight because nobody is going to torch their access to the dollar to bail out a broken dictatorship. The regime survived on 4 years of look-the-other-way diplomacy from people who treated enforcement like an impolite chore. That party is officially over, and the tab has arrived with compound interest. Down in South Carolina, the Republican primary runoff for the United States Senate just delivered a moment that left the entire room staring in absolute disbelief. Interim Senator Darline Graham, who was appointed to fill the seat of her late brother Lindsey Graham after he passed away in July, took the debate stage and told the audience out loud that she is not that informed on national security. When the moderators asked her about Taiwan, Chinese aggression, and the South China Sea, she openly admitted that defense strategy is not her area of expertise, though she made sure to add she broadly supports our troops. The crowd responded with audible gasps and boos, and her conservative opponent, Representative Ralph Norman, did not miss a beat. He stepped up, broke down the exact strategic value of Taiwan, and made the point that the United States Senate is not an entry-level internship where you learn the map on taxpayer time. If you apply for a job guarding the front door of the country, telling the hiring manager that locks and alarms are not really your thing is generally considered a bold interview strategy. Voters in South Carolina expect a fighter who knows the threats facing America on day one, not someone asking for time to finish the reading assignment. Ralph Norman showed what readiness looks like, while Graham proved that a famous last name will only carry you so far before the questions get real. Fierce fighting continues along the Eastern Front in Ukraine, with the Ukrainian General Staff reporting 189 separate combat engagements over the past 24 hours. The heaviest pressure remains concentrated on the logistical hub of Pokrovsk, where Ukrainian defensive lines managed to push back 26 separate Russian ground assaults. The sheer scale of the Russian bombardment was immense: 70 airstrikes, 224 guided aerial bombs, and over 6,500 kamikaze drones launched across the line alongside non-stop artillery fire. Ukrainian commanders reported that at least 33 Russian soldiers were killed and 15 were wounded in the Pokrovsk sector alone as local units held their ground. Moscow is throwing massive waves of manpower and heavy equipment into this axis, desperate to breach the supply lines in the Donbas before their offensive runs entirely out of steam. The level of destruction along that sector shows the brutal reality of modern drone and glide bomb warfare, where entire positions are leveled in minutes. The cost in human life on both sides is staggering, and the grinding nature of this battle proves once again that endless attrition solves nothing on the ground, while the front lines remain locked in bloody stalemate. The Federal Trade Commission just took aim at one of the sleaziest corporate practices on the modern internet: secret, algorithmic, personalized pricing. Under a new draft policy backed by a 2-0 vote and led by Chairman Andrew Ferguson, any business that alters prices based on your browsing history, your physical location, or your personal shopping habits must explicitly disclose what it is doing. For years, giant online retailers have been quietly charging one customer $20 and another customer $30 for the exact same item, simply because their software figured out the second person had a higher income or was shopping from a wealthier neighborhood. Chairman Ferguson stated the obvious. When an American looks at a price tag, they reasonably expect it to be the actual price of the product, not a customized penalty calculated by a corporate surveillance algorithm. Consumer advocacy groups are already pushing to take this a step further and ban the practice entirely. If a local grocery store tried charging two different people different prices at the cash register based on what car they drove into the parking lot, the manager would be run out of town before lunch. Silicon Valley thought putting the exact same hustle behind a computer screen made it advanced commerce. It was never innovation. It was just a digital markup machine designed to squeeze consumers who thought they were getting a fair deal. A massive legal showdown against big tech is officially underway in an Oakland federal courtroom, and the numbers on the table are staggering. A bipartisan coalition of 29 state attorneys general, led by California, Colorado, New Jersey, and Kentucky, is taking Meta to trial for deliberately engineering addictive algorithms that target children and teenagers. State prosecutors argued in front of an advisory jury that Mark Zuckerberg's company knowingly exploited the psychological vulnerabilities of young people to keep them glued to Instagram and Facebook, while actively hiding internal research that documented the damage to youth mental health. Meta's defense attorneys showed up to claim that the company invested heavily in parental controls and never intended any harm. If United States District Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers rules against Meta, the company faces up to $1.4 trillion in potential penalties, along with court-mandated overhauls of its entire software structure. Big Tech spent a decade telling parents that screen addiction was just a private family matter, all while their engineers worked around the clock to make sure kids could not put the screen down. The tech monopolies convinced themselves that burying their own safety data would keep the liability away forever. When you build a business model around hooking kids and hiding the receipts, you do not get to act surprised when the bill finally shows up in federal court. The cleanup over at the Pentagon is moving fast, and the latest target is the front office of the military newspaper Stars and Stripes. Defense Department officials are actively preparing to remove Max Lederer, who has run the publication as publisher for 19 years. Lederer had already told his staff he planned to retire at the end of September, citing major philosophical disagreements with the Trump administration over the editorial mission of the paper. Pentagon leadership wants the taxpayer-funded outlet completely revamped, cutting ties with outside commercial wire services and refocusing the entire publication strictly on warfighting, military preparedness, and weapons lethality. The paper's editor-in-chief, Eric Slavin, has also been clashing with defense leaders over what he calls journalistic independence. There is a very simple reality that the permanent bureaucracy inside Washington always manages to forget. If the American taxpayer is footing the bill for a defense publication, that publication exists to serve the mission of the United States military, not to run an echo chamber for corporate wire copy. For 19 years, the management operated like an independent media company that just happened to collect government funding on the side. The Trump Pentagon is putting an end to the drift, making sure every dollar spent under the defense umbrella goes toward readiness instead of public relations. That is the news for this hour. Stay sharp, stay informed, and I will see you right back here next time on The Tom Sense Show.